Dear students, I welcome you back to the class of geometric design. We are going to move ahead with the space requirements and then we are going to talk about the side distance requirements in this particular interaction. Let us look at what we talked about in the previous interaction. We have talked about the factors which are related to the geometric design, how they are going to make an influence, and in that direction we have discussed about ecological factors and environmental factors. And then we started with the space requirements, and these space requirements we have looked for urban roads, rural highways, multi-lane highways, expressways and hill roads. So, all of the terrain are also being looked in those particular requirements. Of course, in the case of hilly roads, that is already in the mountainous and steep terrain. So, once we have an idea about this, now let us move forward and see what are the other things which are related with the space requirements. We will discuss that before we move into the space requirements for the side distances. So, two of the things which we are going to talk in that direction are road margins and road land, as well as the building line and the control line. And then after that we will be moving into the next topic related to the side distances, and in that side distance discussion we will look at the requirements, the different types of side distances which can be there, and then what are the factors which affect these side distances. So, first of all we will list them and then we will start with those factors, with the first one being taken as the perception reaction time. So, let us start the today's interaction with the first point here, that is road margin and the land which is going to be provided for the total facility in any of the form, whatever it is, like in the urban areas or the rural highways. Now, what is road margin? Now, this road margin is the space which is provided beyond the shoulders, and this includes the slopes, drains, extra land that is acquired for the expansion of the road in terms of number of lanes in future. If you remember, in the last interaction we have seen one such diagram, within which towards the center we had the carriageway and the shoulders on the either side of that carriageway, and then after that whatever land was there, that was road margin, and that included all of those things which have been talked here. So, this is one space which is going to be there, and this is also based on the predicted values of traffic volume. So, this is going to give you an idea that how much is the expansion which will be there in terms of the number of lanes tomorrow, and then we have to get that land along with some extra land for future. So, the road land is going to be nothing, but it is going to be a combination of all of these facilities which are providing in terms of the widths, either in an urban area or on highways. So, this is a total space which is acquired on either side of the center line of the alignment, which includes all cross sectional elements which are required for the operation of the vehicles or the road users, as well as the extra spaces which are required, or the amenities which are going to be provided. The spaces which are being taken by those amenities is also going to be a part of it. So, what we get is that extremities which are going to be there, they will be defined as a road land boundary or road boundary. So, if we say it is road land boundary, then in short it is going to be defined as RLB. Apart from this, there is going to be a building line and a control line. In that diagram that was also shown. So, if we say that we have this much which is road land, then beyond that we are going to have two lines. So, this line is being defined as road land boundary, then this is building line, and this one is going to be a control line. So, they are at some distance away from the road land boundary. Now, when you are talking about this building line, then this is a limit which is usually 3 to 6 meters, and that is what we can say, as I talked in this sense, as setback in the previous interaction. So, we may be having this setback of 3 to 6 meters away from the road land boundary, at which the building line will be there. It means no construction is there up to this, but the line of building is going to be there at this point, but the type of construction is still controlled. and this is going to be there in terms of a control line, means whatever type of constructions you are requiring, you are free to do that. But if you have maintained these distances, then it is going to help immensely in terms of the side distances as well as in terms of the interruptions which are going to be there because of the number of accesses which will be there if all of this development on this side comes simply at the road land boundary. So, these two things, the building line and the control line, are going to help in the overall operation of the traffic, maintaining the LOS. Subjective, these are being maintained and these distances are being considered. So, if we look at these distances, then these widths are being defined here for the national highways or state highways or going up to the village roads. Again, we have two distinctions: plain and rolling terrain and mountainous and steep terrain. We have open area and built up area, and then we have the distances being defined in terms of the building lines and the control lines, or in terms of the distance between the building line and the road land boundary, which as I said is a setback. What you can see is that if you are looking at this particular site, then leaving this value, these setbacks which are being defined for even the mountainous and steep terrain for both open and built up area, they are 3 to 5 meters. So, we are maintaining this 3 to 5 meters on either side of the road land boundary. But when you are looking at an open area, then it speaks of a quite high values which needs to be considered while acquiring the land when you are going to construct, say, the national highway or a state highway, where the distance between the control lines is going to be 150 meters. So, when you talked about the road land was something like 60 meters, but when you are talking about the control lines, then the overall land which should be there in a clear form, then that should be 150 meters, and in between the building lines it is going to be 80 meters. So, these type of enforcements are required to be made here. Now, one thing which was there in terms of a starred value is being talked here. What it says is, if the land width is equal to the width between the building lines. So, that means when we say this is my road land, but eventually because of the restrictions on the side, my road land boundary and the building line are getting overlapped, then it says that there should be a setback of 2.5 meters which should be maintained between a building line and my road land boundary is going to be here. If we have one space to do on the outer side, it is fine, otherwise minimum of this setback should be maintained. So, this is one another aspect related to the widths. Now, let us come to the side distances. Now, what are side distances? Side distance, when you are moving on a road, this is say a vehicle which is moving in this direction, or if I look at this in terms of a vehicle like this, and you are sitting here with your eyes at this level, you are trying to see what is happening ahead on this particular lane in this direction in which you are moving. So, this is a distance which is available to a driver ahead, and in this particular distance the driver is trying to apprehend what exactly is happening, and whether if there is something which is happening at this point is dangerous enough that if this vehicle comes and collides here, then this will be an eventual final condition which may happen in terms of a hazardous situation, maybe a major accident or a fatality may be there. Or there may be a condition that there is already another vehicle which is moving at this location, and this vehicle is interested that I want to go ahead of this vehicle, and therefore, I am going to move into the side lane, overtake it, and then will come back to my lane. So, this is another possibility which can be there. So, there are different possibilities depending on the situation which is happening ahead from the location where the vehicle is at the moment t is equals to 0, and that distance what we are looking at is a side distance. Obviously, when we are talking about different conditions, this name of side distance will change, and that is what we are going to talk when we will go forward. So, the examples as you can see is already given. There is an overtaking a vehicle safely. Safely means because there is a vehicle which is going to come from the other direction in a lane, and if this vehicle has not gone back in its own lane, then there is a possibility that an accident or a crash can take place at this location. So, that is why we need to talk a safe movement. There is possibility of drive safely during night time. That is also a requirement, because now you are working with respect to the headlight of your vehicle. Let us look at some of the things here. The first case is a straight section, where if you are moving at this location and you are going in this direction, a long stretch is available to you as a visibility, and you can find that there is no side movement, and therefore, you are getting a safe environment to drive your vehicle maybe at a desired speed. So, this is a one good example of having a good visibility ahead. Let us talk about the second case. Now, in the case of this one, what you found is that if I talk about this vehicle, then this vehicle has a very good visibility up to this point. So, if anything wrong happens here, this vehicle is going to be able to visualize that. At the same time, these vehicles are moving while maintaining the distances between them. A very good example of a driving here, and if anything wrong happens to this vehicle and this vehicle stops, then the vehicle which is coming from the back has an opportunity to stop by this position without colliding with this vehicle, or it can change the direction and a trajectory and can move this way and then come back to the lane. So, we need to have these distances, and the driver should be able to perceive and then react accordingly to the situation which is happening ahead. This is another case where the vehicles are moving in their lane. So, these and these vehicles, they are moving in their lane. This vehicle probably was somewhere here, and it has now started overtaking the another vehicle. There is no vehicle which is coming from the other direction. As you can see, this vehicle has already overshooted to the other side lane. So, if any vehicle is coming from this side, then this vehicle has to retreat, or otherwise this is going back to the lane, and that is where the safe movement is going to be there. Here the case is for intersection, where we assume that there is a vehicle which is coming from this direction, and because all of this space is being cleared, you can see that this is totally being cleared. So, the visibility is going in this direction. So, if this vehicle is moving ahead this way and the vehicles are coming from that direction, so this is the point of collision. So, we have to omit that, and you can see that there is a vehicle coming from here, there is a vehicle going straight on a main road, and there is a vehicle which is taking a turn, a right turn from this particular side. So, this is a hazardous situation which is happening even though you have a good visibility being maintained, and this is required. And when you talk about this distances like this is nothing but it is defined as a sight distance triangle. Another example of passing is being shown, but in this case what is happening is there are big vehicles. Now, when these big vehicles are moving and you are trying to overtake from the left hand side, because these big vehicles will keep moving in their lane, they will not change the lane, then the visibility will get hampered if there is a continuous numbers of big vehicles which are moving one behind the other. And here in this case, because it is a divided highway, there is no vehicle which is coming from the other direction. So, that problem is not there, but then the overtaking becomes a bigger one. So, you have to overtake not one vehicle, but multiple vehicles in this case. Here the another case is being shown, which is of a horizontal curve. So, if your location is here, then because there is a scant vegetation on this, then what you found is that this is the distance which is clearly visible to a driver, and which may be adequate enough to stop the vehicle if while moving on this direction they find out that there is something wrong which has happened at that location. But this is not going to be the case in all conditions. So, what you can see here is a night time driving. Under the night time driving, you are having the visibility with respect to the headlights. So, the headlight up to what particular extent it is going, you will be able to find out that. So, this is the distance which is available to a driver, and the driver has to be cautious because rest of the things are black, and if anything happens in that area and then while moving, this distance will keep moving ahead of the driver, you apprehend that there is something wrong which has happened, there may or may not be a time to stop the vehicle or change the direction of a vehicle or a trajectory. This is again curve, but because of a big vegetation on the inner side, the sight distance is being hampered. You are not being able to see that what is happening on the other side, and that needs to be maintained. So, this is one another case which needs to be looked. You can see a vertical profile. So, in this vertical profile, you do not have an idea what is coming from the other side. It looks like that this ends here. If this is a type of an alignment which is being provided, then this is a dangerous one, and you can see that rightly it is being defined here by the post, no sight distance available on this road here, be cautious. This is a condition of fog which may happen in all of the hilly areas or at the bottom of the hills. In this particular area also we find this happens, and sometimes here the visibility is still very good. Sometimes we have found that the visibility is even not more than 3 meters, and you have to move at a speed like 10 kilometers per hour or so. So, the visibility can be hampered because of different reasons, and if that is happening, then the safety measures needs to be embedded. Here it may not be related to that how to provide that sight distance. We need to see that how the safety measures to be provided in terms of the reflective coatings or studs, so that the driver is able to understand in which lane he or she is moving. So, when we have talked about all of these things, then these sight distances can be defined in different forms. One is the stopping sight distance, where the distance is available to a driver by which if there is an acute condition, then the driver can stop the vehicle without having a collision with that object which is available ahead. There is an overtaking sight distance, where a vehicle which is desirous to overtake a slow moving vehicle can do that while maintaining the safety of each and every vehicle in all of those lanes as being shown here at the bottom. The intermediate sight distance is one thing which is somewhere in between the stopping sight distance and overtaking sight distance. Where we will take up these distances, it will become clearer to you what is exactly intermediate sight distance and where it is provided. Then we have the headlight sight distance. We talked about the movement during the night time, and that is where we have to see that if you are having the say the up beam or you are having the down beam, the what is the extent of the road which is visible to you. In the up beam you can see a longer distance, in the down beam you are also being able to see something which is happening very near to you, which is otherwise not available in the case of a up beam. So, and here when you are looking at this, then at what height this headlight is being provided from the top of the pavement is obviously one another point which will be considered. Then we will be looking at the sight distances on the multi-lane highways. Now, the emphasis of the government is to provide more of a multi-lane highways, 4-lane divided, 6-lane divided highways. How this is going to be maintained? This has to be maintained not only the inner side of one side, but it has also to be maintained on the inner side of the outer lanes of a curve. Then circular curve is another aspect being shown here. So, you need to see that this is a sight line, this needs to be clear, this should not be obstructed by way of any development or any feature which is being provided, maybe even in terms of an arboriculture. Then vertical curve is another thing which is getting an impact due to the curvature. So, the line of sight is again going to be obstructed. We will be talking about these things, and then we are going to talk about the intersections, and in those intersections there are two type of intersections we will deal. One is uncontrolled intersection and another one is a priority intersection. So, these are the types which we are going to take up one by one when we will be discussing in the further interactions to follow. The situations are also going to be there on a road. Now, what are those situations? Those situations can be in terms of the carriageway width and those can be in terms of the movement. So, you have the width of carriageway and you have the movement of traffic. So, movement can be one directional or two directional. The width of the carriageway will depend on the number of lanes, and that is where we will be talking about the condition of a single lane or a two lane or a multi lane divided system with or without a gradient in the longitudinal direction. And then we will also be talking about the traffic which is moving in either one or both of the directions. So, what we have is we are going to have the combination of all of these things which may create an impact in terms of the sight distance which is to be provided ahead. Now, let us look at the factors which are going to be there and which we are going to discuss one by one in our interactions. The first thing is the perception reaction time. Now, this perception reaction time is related to the driver, and when you talk about the driver, then driver can be classified by gender, they can be classified by age, they can even be talked in terms of experience, that is also a possibility, or the skill which is being acquired by a driver. So, this perception reaction time is going to be affected by all of these things, and we will be taking up this, that how these are being computed and what is the value which we use. Then we have the two sets of the things in the same color. One is the friction between the tire and the pavement surface, and another one is the gradient of the road, and these two are related with the our facility which is being provided in the physical form. Then the next thing is overtaking maneuver time, the vehicle design speed and the vehicle acceleration rate. Obviously, they are related with the vehicle and its performance. So, they are also going to be discussed. And then there are miscellaneous aspects in terms of the height of the driver eye, object, headlight, angle of beam from the headlight. So, these are also the points which we will be considering under different type of sight distances. Now, let us come to the first one, which is a perception reaction time. Now, what is this perception reaction time? Let us see this photograph or a diagram, whatever you consider here. The vehicle is moving here, going in this direction. There is an object which is being observed by the driver. Now, this object, say an animal, this may be crossing the road. So, may be going in this form. This may be standing at this location itself, this may be moving this direction, or this may be going away from the vehicle. Anything may be happening with respect to this object which is an animal, or it can be an stationary object, say something is lying here as a box. So, if that box is there, so we are going to consider that also as an object which is lying at that location. Now, this driver sees it, and now he is trying or she is trying to see that what exactly is happening with this object. Is this object moving? Is this object stationary? If it is moving, then in which direction it is moving? Coming towards the vehicle, going away, or just simply crossing. So, when this is happening, this vehicle is moving with the speed v, and this vehicle will keep moving the speed v up to a particular point, by which the driver is being able to understand the situation and decides what to do. So, this distance which is being moved from say a location A to location B on this road in the time t is what we are talking here as a perception reaction time. So, when we are looking at this perception reaction time, there are different theories through which this is being talked. So, we have the Peave theory and we have another thing which is a reflex action. So, when we talk about this Peave theory, that is PIEV, this is nothing but it is a first letter of these words. The first one is perception, that means the driver is trying to understand the situation which is appearing in front. So, they are looking at the situation and seeing whether I have to take into consideration or not. But then the situation is such that the driver starts trying to understand it, and that is what is intellection. And here this is also going to be controlled by the experience and skills of the driver which the driver has acquired over the period of time. So, This driver now will start at trying to understand, okay, this has happened previously also and that this is the action which I have taken. Oh, this is a new situation, I have to try to understand this in a new format. So, that is going to be dependent on these things. Then the evaluation is also going to be there on the basis of the attitude of the driver or the self belief. The attitude of the driver says nothing doing, I am not going to change anything, I am just moving, whatever happens, this animal has to move away from my path, or this object if it is lying, I have nothing to do, I am going to hit it. So, maybe that can be a negative attitude which may be there, or there may be a self belief in certain things. So, we need to take that also, and these two things, they are going to work together. So, the person is trying to understand, at the same time those attitudes are giving some information, you do it, you do not do it. So, that sort of a dilemma is going on, and finally, the decision is being taken on the basis of whatever is happened here, and that is being defined as volition. So, now the decision taken, okay, I am going to apply the brakes, or I am going to change the path, or I am going to reduce the speed of the vehicle, so that by the time I reaches that location where the object is, I will be able to cross that location without creating any hazardous situation. But in some of the cases, the situation may appear all of a sudden, and you do not have time to keep doing something in this area, and that is where this reflex action will come into picture. This is a direct action, you seize the condition, you try to understand, but do not have a time, and you take a decision. So, this is the most severe condition which is going to happen, but of course, if you have experienced those things, you will be able to take right decision, but if it is a very new thing which has happened all of a sudden, may cause something wrong on the road. So, the things have been shown here. When you talk about the PEEV theory, then P, I, E and V, this is how it is happening. So, you have got a stimulus, it is going to your brain, then the analysis has started on the basis of your beliefs, on the basis of your experience, on the basis of your previous understandings and the new information which you have got, and finally, the decision is being taken, or otherwise there is a reflex action in which the decision is being taken, where the final response is there. So, this is a schematic form of what we have talked in the previous slide. Now, when we look at the values, how to find out the value of this perception reaction time? Now, this is a driver's response to a situation. Situations are varying. There is no condition where all of the situations can be clubbed together and we say no, this is the only thing which is happening, and that is where you have a one single thing. So, these are varying. The driver also, they are different. They are different in terms of experience, skills, gender, ages, all those things. So, we need to get the information for that. So, one way of doing it is that we can go for a driver simulator experiments, where we have the people who will be there, they will be behaving under different given situations while driving a vehicle on a simulator, and then we will record those values. And these values, when they have been observed from the studies, the 85th percentile values have been found varying in a range of 1.26 seconds to 3 seconds. And within that, it has been observed, if we consider 2.5 seconds, then 90% of the cases are going to be covered by this 2.5 seconds, and that is the reason why this PRT is being considered as 2.5 seconds in our analysis when we are going for a side distance calculations. So, this is regarding the perception reaction time. So, we stop here our discussion, and we will be continuing with the other factors which are affecting the side distance requirements in our next interaction, and then we will follow with that the other side distances which needs to be calculated one by one. Thank you for now, and bye.